For those that don't know, Project Blue has been an alpha test of a new format wherein you could play common cards and rare cards in your deck, but you could not play anything above that. The goal perhaps being to bridge the gap, the divide between what is Blitz format with, still pretty expensive decks, because you can play all legendaries, all fableds, all majestics, that sort of thing, to Commoner, which is only common cards allowed, and it is not my cup of tea personally, though I do think there's a lot of people that like Commoner. For me, it doesn't hit the sweet spot of deck building, wherein you can really utilize all of the cards at common and rare. This is where Project Blue came in. You could use all cards at common and rare, but Project Blue went through an alpha testing phase, and apparently that testing has come to an end with a post here that I found on Reddit. And this was a screenshot taken from the official Discord from the I guess it's like a Project Blue Discord, or really I think it's more of a what are they calling it, Legend Story Labs Discord, I think. Anyway, the post says this from Aaron at LSS, says, "Hi everyone, we want to share an important update regarding Project Blue. The alpha phase will officially conclude following the completion of the 2 scheduled side events at World Tour Auckland. Once these events wrap up, we'll take some time to review the outcomes internally and assess the next steps. We've been incredibly encouraged by the positive interest and thoughtful feedback from the global community, especially considering this project has, so far, been limited to testing within New Zealand. Your enthusiasm and insights have been invaluable." And I'll pause right there to just add in that I have also seen a very large groundswell of interest and support in this format, to the degree that last night we almost ran a Project Blue test event at our armory. Instead, we just did CC. But we voted, and it was the second highest vote getter for possibilities. And it's not the only time that has happened in this local area at the armory level. There have been a lot of people that have expressed interest and have already started building decks for Project Blue. The idea of a Commoner Plus format hits in so many different ways. It's just, is this enough of a difference? And this is my personal opinion. Is this enough of a difference in format between something like Blitz and something like Commoner to justify its own existence? But let's continue on. At this time, however, there are no confirmed plans for a beta phase rollout. And importantly, no active projects currently in the beta pipeline. Now that is the real crux of why we're making this video today, because that wording strikes me, and correct me if I'm wrong, strikes me as that this project as it is not necessarily going to be going forward. That this was a test, it was a new test format, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we can expect this going forward. Now, that doesn't mean that the format itself is dead, but it certainly doesn't mean, but it certainly means that they're not pushing this from alpha into beta. Now, for whatever purpose that actually deems, maybe beta would be a larger rollout of this format across the the globe. Maybe that's what beta would look like, or maybe it would be rolling out like a major ban list. It could be that as well. Either way, that statement says that they currently have no plans to actually do that and roll out some, further fleshing out of the format in beta. As a result, we'll be locking the beta phase general discussion and general discussion channels. This is all on the Discord. There are official communication spaces, and maintaining them will effectively require dedicated resources to ensure blah, 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 blah. Without an active beta project, it is not feasible for us to support those channels in the way they deserve, and keeping them open risks confusion. Again, they're not moving this from alpha into beta. To me, when I first read this, that strikes me as the format is no more. It doesn't have to be that way, because if you look at other card games, and if you look at how these formats have grown, it always seems to stem from a groundswell of player interest. It doesn't necessarily end up being like the company itself says, here's this new format, and the players just go, okay, we'll play in that now. There's a clear groundswell pointing towards the idea of this format, Project Blue, being valuable, having a purpose, and being something that people want to play. At least anecdotally, I have noticed that. It seems that the content and the overall conversation on the internet is that this is a good step forward. And if you're a Commoner fan, down in the comments below, let me know how you feel about this, because to me, this is the biggest issue going for Project Blue, is that it has so much crossover with Commoner that they almost, like in a parasitic way, eat each other, right? It's the Ouroboros, the snake eating the snake. Commoner eats Project Blue, and Project Blue eats Commoner, and then, you know, everyone's just eating the format that they don't play, because they're pulling players away from that one and into the other one. So the question I guess I would look at from the LSS perspective is that clearly there's interest in this type of thing. And I think there's a usefulness in providing a format that is cheap and easy to get into. And also, and this is important, something that is thematically sound. To me, the reason I don't enjoy Commoner to the degree that other people do is that it doesn't feel like I am playing the hero that I know and perhaps fell in love with. And the reason being, I don't have access to some of those class-defining cards, not just Majestics, but even at Rare. Like if you were to look at Commoner and then look at trying to build a Runeblade deck before Rosetta, excuse me, I'm choked up, no. If you were building a Runeblade deck in that format, it did not look good. It did not maybe even function to some degree, right? That's an issue that Commoner has. Because they're locking everything at the common rarity, losing out on rare cards, and of course Majestics and Legendaries, means that you are playing a watered down version of the hero. Now you may still enjoy that. You may still, like, it's for some heroes, it may still feel like that hero. But the nice thing about Project Blue is that by including the rares, you at least got some of that flavor back. Now the next possible solution is that they just do what the Clash format did and just include commons, rares, and specializations. Now that would be a little bit more towards the spice factor of like playing the hero that you know, while still hopefully balancing out the budget. Because the other benefit of Commoner and of Project Blue is that it's an easy format for new players to get into because it's cheap. You can pick up a bunch of Commoner decks. This is a great part about Commoner format. You can pick up a bunch of Commoner decks for pennies on the dollar. Like I have a bunch of Commoner decks sitting over there in just the bulk that I could make out of High Seas. By the way, if you need High Seas bulk, let me know in a comment below, because I have a few. But the point being that you can get into the game for so cheap if that format is supported around you, if people are enjoying playing in it. And the same thing is true of Project Blue. Here, I'll prove it. Okay, a while ago, I did a stream all about Project Blue where we just played a bunch of these decks. I built a good number of Project Blue decks. If we click into these decks, this deck costs $10, right? I mean, it's made up of some solid cards, some good staples. This common and rare only deck costs $10, okay? Let's click another one. Project Blue Old Kasai, $10. You can buy the components for this for $10. This is easy to get into. Like this is the answer to like pre-con blitz decks. Like you remember they used to release pre-con blitz decks with like every set. And they didn't do it with High Seas, which is hilarious because I would have bought the pirate ones. Freaking I would have bought the pirate ones. But they didn't do it, which is probably the right call financially, because I don't think those were providing enough value to new players to actually like warrant their construction. But like this is $20, okay? And it's playing with some of these cards that like, yeah, are a little bit pricier, but $20 for a Dromai like deck that you can just play out there. Like that's probably the most expensive of all of them. Maybe Aurora is up there. Nope, $10. I don't know. I built some other ones that might be more expensive, but I would guess that Dromai is probably the most expensive. This one's such a fun one. It's just all zaps. Anyway, $10. All of these decks are cheap and easy for a new player to go, yeah, I can spend $10. There used to be a game called Keyforge. It still exists technically. And Keyforge was literally, you go into the store, you buy a sealed deck that you can't see for $10, and then now you have a full-fledged deck. There's a business for this. Like you could do this. Maybe I'm like just giving you the next brilliant idea. ProjectBlueDecks.com. Sell that and just put down at the bottom, inspired by DM ARMADA, and I will have left my lasting legacy to this game for inspiring you to start a new business online of creating these $10 decks and then selling them. Because honestly, this is a great way to get into Flesh and Blood and actually play the game. It's pretty perfect. So the question then becomes, what happens to this format? Is it going to be continuing? Is this something based on this screenshot and the wording therein? Is this something that we are going to see just immediately rolled out? That's the other thing I didn't even mention. What if they're just skipping beta phase? They're saying, okay, this is something people want. This is something we could do very easily. We don't need to, make test for this or test for that. We can just roll this out to the world because we're pretty happy with the bans that we're going to implement and with the list that we're going to maintain. And let's just give this to people because they're asking for it. If they just skip completely the beta phase, would that be prudent? Probably not, because more testing is always important, especially if you're going to roll out another format that people are actively going to be playing a lot. If it's not well balanced, if it comes out not well balanced and people jump into it and they're like, this is exciting, and then they realize, oh yeah, Terra is just the best deck because he has access to most cards in the card pool because he can pull from Earth, Ice, he can pull from Guardian. Like, if that's a pull from Elemental cards, if that's a problem, and it just becomes a one deck format out of the gate and people just drop it immediately, I would consider that a failure, especially if you spend the time creating assets and, like infrastructure behind and the ideation and the testing. All of that would be for naught if people just drop the format after realizing that, oh, this is not much different or it's not unique enough. So really, it's up in the air whether or not this format is going to survive or continue or thrive long term. I'm hopeful that something akin to this format does come out, and I want to hear from you. Let me know down in a comment below if this is something you want in the future of Flesh and Blood, because I think it serves a very distinct purpose, but is it unique enough from those other two Young Hero deck formats for it to survive and thrive in the current ecosystem? So if you like this kind of talking head video with a little bit of news splashed in, make the number go to the other number. And as always, everybody, thanks for watching.